Our film tells the story of a reckless young man who works in an amusement park. Suddenly, he travels back in time to the Middle Ages. There, he helps the Queen discover a dangerous conspiracy, all through comedic events that are out of place for the era he is in. Our film begins, and we see Jamal taking care of himself and his personal hygiene, brushing his teeth carefully. Afterward, he gets dressed, goes down, gets into his car, and heads to his work, which is in an amusement park. He learns that Mrs. Bostic, the manager, is holding a meeting and wants everyone there. She talks to them about how much their amusement park has maintained its level amidst all the changes happening in society over 27 years of work. She tells them she received news that a new castle will be opened by competitors, and of course they must be ready for the competition. At that moment, we see Jamal with his foot raised on a chair. She pushes it down to the floor. Jamal suggests that she sell the amusement park, buy a nice car, travel, and date a young man. Everyone present laughs when they hear his suggestion, so Mrs. Bostic gets annoyed. She asks them to leave and each go to their work. She calls Jamal and says, "I want to know why you aren't helping me develop the amusement park." He replies to her and says, "Why exhaust yourself? Sell it and go enjoy yourself with the money." She replies to him and says, "Unfortunately, you have disappointed all my hopes in you." He says to her, "I don't understand why you put your hope in me in the first place." She tells him, please leave, but before he exits, she calls him and asks him to clean the moat. The moat is a deep trench filled with water surrounding historical buildings and castles as a type of defense against the enemy. We see Jamal cleaning the moat, which is full of waste. A friend of his comes and sees him cleaning and pulling out a lot of trash from the trench, including a toy doll. He stands talking to Jamal and tells his friend that a new castle is being opened and that this place will end completely. He says we should go and secure a place for ourselves there before the crowd. His friend pulls out a toy sword and plays a sword duel with him. While they are playing, Jamal sees something like a chain in the trench. He shows it to his friend and runs to get something to pull the chain out of the water. When his friend leaves, Jamal reaches out his hand to try and reach it. It pulls him into the water. Suddenly, he finds himself emerging from the lake in another strange place. He calls for Mrs. Bostic to save him. He gets out of the water with the chain in his hand and sees a man who looks strange. The man says, "Why are you making noise and what are you doing here?" Jamal replies sarcastically and says, "Stay away from me, I have nothing to give you, and you look like a dog." The man gets very angry and says, "Are you mocking me? I am Nolte of Marlborough." After that, the man falls to the ground. Jamal thinks he fainted, but when he checks him, he discovers he died. Jamal screams and says, "Help! Help us!" and tries to save him by giving him the kiss of life so he returns to breathing, but every time he gets close, he feels disgusted. He remembers he has a spray in his pocket, takes it out, and sprays it in the man's nose. The man wakes up and thanks him for saving him, saying, "I owe you my life." He helps him up to a place where there is a horse. Jamal asks, "How do you have animals like this normally?" and asks him if he has a license for this animal. He is very surprised by the metal boot the man is wearing on his leg. The man asks him if he is hungry and gives him a rabbit he had caught and grilled. Jamal is very disgusted and says, "If you are poor and need help, you can submit an application for aid and they will help you. When the social worker comes and sees the trashy place you live in, they will take you to a homeless shelter." When Jamal goes to leave, the man says, "Thank you for talking to me." Jamal is surprised by what he says, so the man continues his talk and says he is a rejected man because he is a failure. Jamal feels sorry for him, takes out money to give him, and leaves him. After he leaves, the man looks at the money, finds its shape strange, and throws it to burn in the fire. We go to see Jamal, who found the place strange, and suddenly knights riding horses appear. He goes to a place, and when they see Jamal, they think it's the new castle they were talking about. He likes the castle very much and says, "You're going to be ruined, Mrs. Bostic." He runs after the knights to enter the castle, but the guards stop him at the door and ask, "Who are you, and what do you want?" He tells them that the actors playing the roles of knights almost ran over him, and they seem to be taking the matter very seriously. He asks them to enter to meet the manager because he wants to work in the new castle. Jamal shouts at the guards and says, "I am from the south of the country, from Normandy." As soon as they hear the name of his town, they make way for him and say the king is waiting for a message from Normandy. Jamal enters and is surprised by everything he sees and the look of the people and their clothes. An old woman spots him and follows him with her gaze. He looks strange to her. After that, we see 3 girls, including a black girl, talking about a woman's right to choose her husband. The girls with her are surprised by her talk and ask if she is tired or something. She tells them, "Don't worry, this is just silly talk I'm saying." She goes to look at things in the market. Jamal sees her and likes her, so he approaches her and introduces himself. She says her name is Victoria. When she goes to leave, he runs after her and tells her he is very impressed by her performance and that he is responsible for talent discovery. She notices his way of speaking and tells him his accent and way of speaking are different from theirs. He asks to photograph her and asks if she has beachwear. Victoria is very surprised by his words. He asks for her phone number, and she replies, 7. He is very surprised and asks, "What do you mean, 7? She says, "This is my number. I work as a cleaning lady for the king, and this is my number." He is surprised by her words and says, "Fine, I will write my number for you." He calls out to those present, "Does anyone have a pen?" Victoria asks him, "Do you know how to read and write?" He says, "Yes, of course. Sorry, could you tell me who you were dealing with before? You must raise your standards." One of the knights comes and hugs Victoria from behind, but Jamal calls out to him and says, "What you did is considered harassment." The knight pulls out his sword and says, "I will cut off your tongue and throw it to the dogs." Jamal turns the matter into a joke and says, "I was joking with you. Enough acting now." At that time, one of the guards comes and says the king is waiting for him. Jamal walks with him and says, "Does your boss make you call him the king?" Jamal reaches the king and enters joking and laughing. Everyone present is surprised by his behavior. The king is very annoyed with him and asks, "What's the news?" Jamal replies and says there was an accident on the road. Everyone is surprised by the answer. The king gets angry and says, "I am asking about the duke who is coming to marry my daughter." Of course, Jamal doesn't understand anything and thinks the king wants him to act. He says, "Fine, I understand you want me to act. Okay, the duke is coming on Tuesday." Everyone present is happy and the king is pleased. He tells the guards to offer him food and take care of him. The king also tells him, "Choose any girl you like and she will be yours, except for my daughter, of course." He laughs and everyone laughs. Jamal asks the king to find him anything to take him to the city. The king calls Philip and says, "Take him to the garden, let him enjoy and eat." He goes with him and is amazed by everything present. He says the place looks like real castles. Jamal continues his talk and says, "I understand. You're going to make it an amusement park with a hotel." Afterward, he asks him to go to the bathroom, but Philip doesn't understand what bathroom means. Jamal explains it to him. Philip understands and points to the place. When he enters, he is shocked by the sight and is disgusted by the place. He leaves without doing anything and says, "How do you think people will come and pay money and in the end find the place disgusting like this?" While they are standing talking, he finds a group of people running and asks them, "What's happening?" They tell him, "We're going to attend the execution." When he asks Philip, he tells him they are going to execute the leader of the rebellion. He goes to see what is happening and finds them saying, "Long live our deposed queen." Jamal shouts and cheers with them, saying "Power to the people," as a type of heating up the events on the basis that he thinks they are acting. They execute the man and cut off his head. Jamal goes and holds the head and says, "How do you make it so natural?" When he discovers the head is real, he faints. Victoria sits next to him and takes care of him, noticing the magic chain he is wearing on his neck. Suddenly, Jamal wakes up and screams, "How did I hold a severed human head?" Victoria tries to calm him down. Then he asks her, "Is today the 5th of the month?" She says yes, roughly. He continues and says, 2001? At that time, she is very surprised and says, "No, we are in the year 1328. Jamal gets very tense and asks her to let him calm down and rest. But she tells him he must go with her so they can dress him in a medal. He remains anxious and wants to leave, but Victoria approaches him and unfastens her dress. She tells him, "I will give you a gift." He thinks she's going to have a relationship with him and starts taking off his clothes, but he finds her pulling a medal from her chest and saying, "Look, I am also wearing a medal." At that time, he pulls the chain from his chest and says, "I am also wearing one." She says, "Calm down, I am here to help you kill the king and return the kingdom to our deposed queen." He is surprised by her words and asks, "What are you saying?" She asks him, "Then why are you wearing this medal?" He says, "I thought it was nice." But she continues her talk normally and suggests ways to kill the king, saying he deserves to be killed because he killed King John and stole the throne of the kingdom. She says anyone who opposes him meets this end, and she shows him the heads of the people who opposed him and were killed, their heads hanging on the castle wall. At the same moment, Philip knocks on the door and says, "We have prepared a horse for you, and the king is waiting for you." He goes to see the horse and finds a reckless horse kicking the ground and the people. When he sees this, he says to the king, "I want to confess to you that I wasn't honest with you." As soon as the guards hear this, their hands immediately reach for their swords, and they prepare to kill the one who deceived the king. But he saves himself and says, "I am not just the messenger of the duke, but I am also a jester." But the king orders him to ride the horse. As soon as he rides the horse, it stands on the ground and everyone laughs at him. He tries to ride again, but before he can sit properly, the horse takes him and runs madly until the horse reaches its place. Jamal gets out to find another horse standing looking at him, and suddenly it starts running and the horse runs after him amidst the laughter and mockery of everyone present. Two young men standing talk about King Leo and call him names, wishing to get rid of him. We return to see Jamal, who is exhausted from running so much from the horse, which gets very close to him. After a while, we see him riding it and coming running on it. The king talks about Jamal, saying he respects him very much after learning he is a messenger and a jester. Once again, we go to Jamal, who is lying down tired. Victoria is treating the wounds on his body, and he discovers she put maggots on his back. He jumps up startled and throws all the maggots she had put for him. Jamal is fed up with all the filth he has seen and says, "I want to go back to my home. Tell me where the lake is here." When she asks, "What lake?" he says, "The lake where the homeless man named Nolt was sitting." She is very surprised and says he is dead, but he insists he is alive and saw him himself. At that moment, Philip enters and tells him the king is waiting for him for dinner. At dinner, the king eats in a disgusting way. Afterward, he says to Jamal, "I want to get to know your country's culture well so I can deal with the duke." The king asks him if he knows how to dance or not. Jamal confirms he dances well. The king asks him to show him the Normandy way of dancing. He starts doing strange movements that no one understands or likes. He goes to explain to the music band the tune they will play, and he suffers until they understand him. After a while, they all get happy and join in with him. The knight who doesn't like Jamal sits there fuming. We see Victoria swapping a tray with one of those present. Also, the king joins them and starts dancing. Suddenly, the king's daughter pulls Jamal from the crowd and gets close to him. The knight sees him, approaches her, and shouts at him, "Our princess! Don't you dare go near her!" When he raises the sword in his face, Jamal runs quickly from him, but he runs after him and corners him. To escape, he hangs onto a rope that was there and slides on it. At the same time, there are two people preparing to kill the king. But when Jamal comes down the rope, he hits the king and knocks him down, saving him from them. The guards arrest the two who were going to kill the king. We see the king angry, saying, "I almost died if not for Jamal's heroic actions." The knight Percy remains standing annoyed and fuming because he knows he was running away from him and wasn't doing anything heroic. He gets even more annoyed when the king makes Jamal responsible for security in his kingdom. The king also offers him land and workers to farm the land and tells him, "Choose the women you want to be yours." Afterward, Jamal sits with a group of the kingdom's lords and tells them he wants to make some changes. Philip enters wearing strange clothes for them, and Jamal tells them this is his new look. He goes out after that and sees Percy sitting playing chess. Jamal sits to play him, but Percy is the one who wins. Jamal says, "Surely we will play again, I was prepared for defeat." The king sends for him, wanting him for security consultation, saying, "We caught this peasant stealing, what should we do with him?" He doesn't wait for Jamal to reply, but immediately sentences him and his family to death. When the king leaves, Jamal gives the peasant money and says, "Go, run away from here quickly." Afterward, we see the guards bringing Victoria, saying, "The king sent her to you. She is your prize." She removes the sheet from her body and says, "Let's finish the matter quickly." But Jamal says, "I won't do that. I asked for you from the king so they wouldn't suspect us. But the guards are standing at the door, and we must make them think we are having a relationship." Indeed, he keeps talking while they hear him, thinking they are having a relationship together. She says to him, "Now you are close to the king, and it is easy for you to reach him and finish him off." He replies to her and says, "If the real messenger arrives, he will finish me off and won't wait." She asks him, "Then why were you wearing the medal on your chest if you don't want to finish off the king?" He says to her, "I wore it by mistake. I am not the man you are looking for, believe me." She leaves him and goes back to her room. There is someone sleeping in her bed. When she returns, she hugs him. The next morning, the real messenger from Normandy arrives and asks to meet the king. The king goes angrily to Jamal's room and is surprised by his daughter, Princess Regina. Of course, the messenger is standing and sees everything. He says to the king, "I think the duke won't be pleased to ask for your daughter's hand." The messenger leaves them and goes. The king shouts at Jamal and says, "You haven't just tarnished my daughter's reputation, you've also lost me the alliance with Normandy." Afterward, we see him locked in a wooden cage inside the prison. There, he sees the two who were going to kill the king. They tell him, "It's true we were upset you ruined our assassination of the king, but it seems you have a plan and are executing it. Here you have ruined the alliance with Normandy, which, if it had happened, we wouldn't have been able to return our queen again." Of course, he has no plan. Things are just working out by luck. They continue their talk and say, "We will be executed tomorrow, and they are probably sharpening the axes they will execute us with now." Jamal screams and says, "I don't want to die. I didn't do anything. The princess is the one who came to me." The next day, we see them in the execution square. Jamal is terrified and afraid. He asks the king to say one last thing before he dies. The king agrees. Jamal says he is a great sorcerer. Silence prevails, and they all look at each other. He takes a lighter out of his pocket and says, "As soon as I touch it, it will light a fire." But they don't like the magic. Percy tells them, "Execute him." He goes to execute him, but something gets stuck in the guard's throat who is to carry out the execution. He keeps coughing and doesn't execute him. Everyone says the sorcerer hit him with a curse. He moves it, and the thing that was in his throat falls out. They rejoice and believe he is indeed a sorcerer. He shouts and raises his voice, saying, "I can make the sun descend to the earth and burn you all." At the same moment, a curtain catches fire. They think he is carrying out his threat, but Percy doesn't believe it and says he is a fraud. At the same time, there are people attacking the castle to save the two who are to be executed. Victoria comes in a small cart and takes the two with her, along with Jamal. But he falls from the cart as it runs toward the castle gate. Percy notices and orders the gate to be closed, but she manages to get out before the gate closes. Jamal sees them leaving and starts running to escape with them. Percy tries to hit him with an arrow, but it hits the guard. Jamal gets out, then the gate is closed and Percy can't get out after him. They shoot arrows at him, but he dodges them. Nolte comes on his horse and saves him. When they escape, Percy gives orders to the soldiers to find them and kill them. We go to see them after they escaped, talking together. Nolte says, "I have now repaid the debt and saved you." When he asks how he knew and came to save him, he says Victoria is the one who told him everything. He takes him to a place where Victoria is. She says Nolte is one of the greatest knights, but he fell with the fall of the queen's throne. Nolte leaves. After a while, they stand and talk to each other again. Victoria says, "I hope you enjoyed yourself with the princess." He says she is the one who came to my room, and I thought she was you, that's why I slept with her. The room was dark, and he couldn't see. She seems jealous and says, "I don't want to hear anything." Then he tells her, "I can take you from this place, and we can go to another place where you will be free and happy. Just show me the place of the lake." She says she couldn't possibly leave her country and also couldn't live without fighting. She shows him the way to the lake and says, "I wish you a happy journey." Jamal reaches the lake and talks to himself, saying, quote, "I hope I don't go back to the modern era this time." But he stops and doesn't want to continue, telling himself, "This isn't my battle and I'm not a party to it." At the same time, there are 3 people bothering Nolte and throwing a bottle of wine at the animals. Jamal comes, intervenes, and clashes with one of them. He dodges the blows until the man gets tired. But in the end, the 3 manage to overpower him and grab him. He asks Nolte to help him, but one of those hitting him says, "Do you think he is a warrior or even a man?" Nolte runs at him, hits him, and puts animal heads in his face. Jamal is happy that they overpowered them and says, "We must do a high five," and teaches him how it's done. They walk together back to the camp. He says, "You must teach me the way to exhaust the opponent's strength. I liked it very much." Jamal explains how he does it until they reach the camp. The king's men had managed to reach them, burned the place, and also took Victoria and a group of her family. He says, "We must save her and finish off the king." He asks them, "Who will fight with me?" But not a single one replies to him. When Nolte finds no one wants to go with him, he says, "I will fight with you." One of those present says, "We have all lost the power and spirit. There is nothing to make us go back to struggle and fight." But suddenly, one of those among them says they are ready to fight for their queen and removes the cover from her head. They discover she is the queen. Everyone then kneels before her except Jamal because, of course, he doesn't understand their customs. The queen approaches Nolte and says, "I am happy I saw you. I thought you were dead." He apologizes to her for leaving her and not being by her side when what happened occurred. But she says, "It's good you left me. If you were with me, you would have been killed. It's good you went, and maybe now it's time for me to return to my throne and you help me and we all fight." But Jamal interrupts her and says, "Not one of them wants to fight. I was just telling them and not one replied to me." Nolte introduces Jamal as a wise, brave man, but in an unusual way. The queen asks him, "So what do you think we can do?" He tells her, "These people need a strong speech to bring back their enthusiasm." Indeed, she listens to him, gathers the people, and starts to give a speech. But her words don't affect the people and don't please Jamal. He asks her to let him try. Indeed, he manages to enthuse them and takes them to train to finish off the king and return the queen to her throne. On the promised night, they prepare to attack the castle the next day. Jamal gifts Nolte a new pair of shoes, saying they are lighter than the metal ones he wears. At the same time, Nolte gifts him a knight's mask, but he says, "You and I know I'm not a knight." However, Nolte tells him, "You are no less than any knight I've known." We go to see Victoria, who is locked in the king's prison. On the other side, Jamal is preparing some things to help him during the attack. The next morning, they go to attack the castle and enter with total ease. There are no guards. It looks like it's a trap. Suddenly, Percy appears with the soldiers behind them. The battle begins. From afar comes a knight wearing black and riding a black horse. As soon as everyone sees him, they run and say, "The Black Knight is alive!" The Black Knight has arrived. It looks like it's Jamal. Indeed, he falls from the horse, the mask is revealed, and they know it's Jamal. They return once more to the attack. Percy goes to finish him off, but Nolte saves him. They return to the clash again. The battle is violent. The king runs to escape and asks Percy to help him, but he throws him from the top of the castle. We see Nolte doing moves exactly like Jamal and managing to defeat those in front of him. In the middle of their happiness, Percy comes and hits Nolte with an arrow in his chest. He falls to the ground and says to Jamal, "You are a brave knight, and it was an honor for me to fight by your side." He gives him his sword and says, "You know what you must do." Percy goes to bring Victoria and puts a sword to her neck, asking Jamal to throw the sword or he will finish her off. Victoria tells him, "Don't you dare do that." He throws her to the ground, and she is wounded in her neck. The two clash. He says, "I will kill you as I killed Nolte." Suddenly he gets enthusiastic, takes the sword again, and manages to hit him. He does moves that are strange to Percy and manages to knock him to the ground, but he doesn't finish him off. He goes to pick up Victoria and check on her. When Percy gets up to finish him off, suddenly he is hit by an arrow from behind. It was Nolte who shot him. Jamal is happy that he is still okay. The battle ends with their victory and the reclamation of the kingdom's throne. Then we see Jamal and Victoria at the lake. He is preparing to depart. Of course, they will go to Jamal's real time. We see Nolte and the queen standing, asking them not to go and leave them. But Jamal insists on departing. The queen gives him a sword and gives him the title of the Black Knight. Suddenly, Jamal feels he fainted again. He wakes up to find himself in the amusement park where he works, surrounded by his colleagues and the manager. They wake him up and say, "You've been under the water for more than 10 minutes. When he wakes up, he asks about Victoria. His friend doesn't understand anything. Mrs. Bostic comes to say, "I will sell the amusement park and leave and do as you advised me." But Jamal tells her, "No, don't give up. You must fight, be brave, and accept any challenge." She is surprised by his words. 6 months pass, and the amusement park has been renovated and become beautiful. Mrs. Bostic is dressed as a queen and sitting on the throne. Jamal oversees everything in the place. He stands teaching a boy how to kick a ball. A woman comes and thanks Jamal for teaching the boy how to play. He is surprised that it's Victoria. She says, "I feel like I know you," and he says, "Me too." He introduces himself, and she says, "My name is Nicole." On her neck is the mark of the wound that Percy inflicted on her. He asks her what that wound is from. She says, "This is an old wound." The boy calls her and says, "Let's go, Auntie." Jamal is happy that he isn't her son. The film ends while he is calling her because he forgot to take her number. Suddenly he trips and falls into the same lake once more. He wakes up to find himself in a battlefield with 3 lions running after him. Here the movie ends.